ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामिने गौरतुसे नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण. So we welcome everyone for today's discussion on Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So today we are discussing from chapter 2 and verse number 19 we discussed yesterday. Yainam vedki hantaram yasyainam manyate hatam ubhau tav na vijanito nayam hanti nahanyate. Neither he who thinks the living entity the slayer, nor he who thinks it slain is in knowledge. For the self slays not, nor is slain. So we discussed about this verse yesterday in great detail. So in this particular verse, Krishna is explaining those who think that they can change material situation. They have the power, they have the control over material energy. So they are in great ignorance. They are not in knowledge. They are not in knowledge. Those who think or consider that if I don't put my endeavor, if I don't work hard, if I don't take things seriously in either in my material life or in others' material life, so the things will not go on properly. If somebody thinks like that, or if somebody thinks like this, that because of me, there are material disturbances in my life. So at material level, if somebody thinks that either he can become the cause for advancing materially, or he can become the cause for destroying material career, material advancement. In both the cases, he is actually in ignorance. It cannot be so, because that will be explained in more detail in third chapter. Krishna says, Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha. Sarvashaha means all the activity. Gunai. Gunai means three modes of material nature. Karmani sarvashaha. Prakrite kriyamanani. Kriyamanani means all the activities are carried out by material nature using three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Sarvasaha refers to that we don't even have the power to control the thoughts. What to speak of physical work, physically, or Sarvasaha refers to it's not just that we can't control material things, material work, material actions performed by others, but even our own self we cannot control. And even up to the level of thinking or up to the level of desiring, that is also not in our control. The kind of desires which comes in our mind, within our heart, that is also not in our control. That everyone can understand. Just like, for example, those who want to become sincere devotees, they want to avoid material desires. They want to avoid all kinds of lusty, nasty desires which appear time to time within one's mind. They want this, but still they are unable to do it. That proves that this activity of mind, thinking or desiring, is an act of mind. So this is also not in our control. Then who is controlling? Who is in control? Material nature is in control. Material nature, using three modes, are controlling all the activities, even to the point of thinking, feeling, and willing. Feelings also. Thinking and feelings also. Yeah, we have many examples of such things. Sometimes a devotee comes, Prabhuji, I do not want to think. Uh, uh, they become attached to some kind. Sometimes they become attached to a boy or girl, or sometimes to in order to make some career. So they know that this is not good, but they, I have feelings for them. I have feelings for her, feelings for him, or feelings for acquiring, for getting so much wealth. So in this way, they become stuck there. They are unable to do it. They do not want this. So that proves that even this thinking and feeling and willingness also is not in our control. We are not controller. Who is controlling? Prakriti is controlling material nature, using three modes of material nature, controlling. That's why one who is influenced by mode of ignorance, so his thinking, feeling, and willing will be accordingly dictated by these modes of ignorance. And those who are in mode of goodness, so their feeling, thinking, feeling, willing will be dictated by mode of goodness. That's why. So what does this mean? Does this mean that we should just hand over ourselves completely, surrender completely to modes of material nature? So whatever thinking, feeling, willing we get in this life, okay, just do it. This is the philosophy of modern people. They say just do it, but don't just do it. You get spiritual knowledge, understand. If our thinking, feelings, and willing, our thinking, feeling, willing, if it is not proper, if it is going to bind us more and more in this material world, then we have to find out the means how we can stop it, how we can replace those material thinking, feeling, and willing into spiritual thinking, feeling, and willing. That can be done. But that cannot be done by our own power because we are not in control. Material nature is in control, material nature is controlling, but there is one personality who is known as Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is still the controller of material nature. We cannot control material nature. Material nature is controlling everything. But Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he can control material nature also. He can control modes of goodness, passion, ignorance also. So those who are actually desirous or willing to advance in spiritual life, so although they understand these thinking, feeling, willing, and all the activities, all the actions and reactions as well, all the actions which we are doing at present and all the reactions which we are getting because of our previous actions performed, these all things are carried out by material nature. These all things, all activities, actions, reactions are controlled by modes of material nature, prakriti. So we cannot control, but Krishna has the power to control it. So yes, there is solution. So one can take shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. But if one try materially, if one tries to control these things, then he will be completely baffled in his attempt to do so. And then the only result will be his frustration. And for doing this, he will adopt so many nonsense or unauthorized means. And so he will entangle himself more and more in the actions and reactions of material nature. That's why those who are actually intelligent, so instead of themselves uh, trying to adjust the material situation in order to become happy in this material world, rather they take shelter of Krishna's lotus feet by performing, by engaging themselves in the service of Krishna. And in this way, with the help of Krishna, they are able to control these activities of mind, body, actions and reactions, even reactions also. Not only the actions performed by our mind, body, and senses, but also reactions of the past life can be controlled by the Supreme Lord. He has the power, even up to the point of controlling our prarabdha karma. Prarabdha karma means which has already been fructified. Just like if you if you have sown if suppose a tree uh, which gives the bitter fruits. So the bitter fruits have already come on the tree. So you cannot change it. You cannot make it sweet or tasty fruits. But Krishna has the power to change this also. So any amount of hard work, any amount of intelligence cannot help a living entity to change his prarabdha karma. Prarabdha karma means because our past actions, we have already got this particular body, and accordingly we have got particular nature, particular level of intelligence, determination, and inspiration and desires. These things are already destined. We have already gotten it because of our past karma. So it cannot be changed by one's own endeavor in this life. But if one takes shelter of Krishna, then he can change. This Krishna can change all this prarabdha karma also, and one can become free from the influence of material nature, and one can engage himself in such a way that he can advance in his spiritual life. So that's why Krishna is saying those who think that they can become the cause of any kind of change of material situation, those people, they are in ignorance. They are not in knowledge. So Arjuna was thinking that if I fight, I will be the cause for killing of so many of my friends and relatives. But he did not know that the killing and saving any kind of material circumstances, situations which one comes across in one's life, that is because of his previous karma and material nature under the superintendence of the Supreme Lord takes care of it. So we just become instrument in the hands of material nature. That's all. If we are with some person, some people, somebody, and if that particular person is destined to get some kind of happiness, so because we are with him, so we will become the cause of his happiness. And if he is destined to get some kind of suffering, so we are with him, so he will get suffering because of us. We become the instrument. Material nature does this. Those who are actually in knowledge, they understand this, that the cause of my happiness and distress in this life are not the people with whom I am living right now, not the object with whom I am living with, but it's actually it's because of my own karma. Material nature using those people and objects and situations as an instrument is awarding me that happiness and distress. So this is what the lesson we learned from verse number 19. Now today's verse, Krishna next explains. न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचिन् नायं भूत्वा भूतवा न भूया अजो नित्या शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणो न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे. For the soul there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. Najayate. So in the verse number 18, Krishna explained about the nature of material body and also some nature of spirit soul. But mostly Krishna focused on antavante me deha. The deha is going to get destroyed, but the soul is eternal, immeasurable, and cannot be destroyed. That's why one should work for the welfare of the spirit soul. And in the verse number 19, Krishna explained that those who think that they can become the cause of either construction or destruction, material advancement or material disadvancement of any living entity, so they are in ignorance. Now Krishna is explaining about the nature of the soul, that it is completely unaffected by any kind of material situation. Even if somebody thinks that he can become the cause for material changes in this world, that's like Arjuna is thinking that I will be the cause of killing of my friends and relatives. So first of all, this is not correct. Even at material level, bodily changes, killing of somebody. Arjuna, you cannot become the cause. This is already destined. They are not going back from this battlefield. They are destined to be killed in this battlefield. So you are not the cause. You are simply becoming an instrument So if you become the instrument for this right cause, that will be your benefit. But if you, uh, even if you think that you will become the cause of killing them, still that is your ignorance, because na chayate mriyate vakadachin. Nobody takes birth, nobody dies. You are only thinking about material things. You are only calculating on the basis of material conception of life. You are only considering material bodies. But the person whom you are associated with, they are not actually this material body. They are spirit soul. And for spirit soul, there is neither birth or nor death. Kadachin. Kadachin means at any time. So this word kadachin also very important. Kadachin means at any time the soul is soul never takes birth, or not thus the soul dies. The soul she has eternal feature of being the fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, Supreme Soul. The soul has this eternal feature. So that's why Krishna is using the word Kadachi. Najayate mriyate va Kadachi. So here also, in this particular verse, the Mayavad misconception is being nullified by Supreme Lord Himself. The soul, one cannot create the soul at any time, past, present, or future, nor one can destroy the soul. Because the Mayavad misconception is that after liberation, the soul gets merged into the Supreme Brahman, Param Brahman. That means the soul gets destroyed. It loses its individuality, individual existence. That means soul is dying. So this is also against this philosophy of Bhagavad Gita. Soul never dies. That means the existence of soul never gets destroyed. Namriyate. Nor the spirit soul, as Mayavadi philosopher, they think that the spirit soul in its impersonal Brahma Jyoti form, when it takes material form, then it is generated for a temporary period of time and accepts individuality. So this Jayate, taking birth, the taking birth is also not possible, because Krishna is telling na Jayate. So the individual soul cannot take birth. That means the individual soul was always in existence, and the individuality of soul cannot be destroyed. That means the individual soul will always remain as it is. Na jayate mriyate va kadashin, at any point of time. So the birth and death is only applicable for material body. Just like we have got now this material body. So now this material body has been generated from its impersonal composition, earth, water, fire, air, ether, impersonal, no personality. So for the time being, when the body takes birth, it assumes a personality, personal form. And as soon as the body is destroyed, mriyatu, at the time of death, the material body loses its individuality, and material body merges into its impersonal elements, earth, water, fire, air, ether. So the philosophy which Mayavadi propagates, that is applicable for material body, not for the soul. For the soul, there is no birth, there is no birth, no death. But for the material body, it can be applied. Yes, for the material body, there is birth, and after some time, the material body is destroyed. And that means the material body gets merged into its element. Na ayam bhutva bhavitavana bhuya. This second line of this particular verse confirms this philosophy more rigidly. Or we can say it nullifies the Mayavad philosophy in a more convincing way. So for the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. And also, na ayam is this soul. And he has not come into being. Now we are individual beings. Being means individuality is there. So na ayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuya. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. That means it was never the time when the soul accepts the individuality. when the soul becomes a being, individual being, there was no such thing like this. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. That means it remains always as it is a being. This is the meaning. Nayam bhutva bhavita vana bhuya. Then ajo nitya shashvato ayam purano. Ajo means again the same thing, unborn. Aja, aja, unborn. Nitya, nitya means eternal. Shashvataha means permanent. Eternal, shashvataha. Ayam means this Purana, the oldest. So the living entity, spirit soul, is aja. It does not take birth, unborn. And nitya, it's eternal. And shashvata, permanent. And Puran, the oldest. That's why it's the oldest. Na hanyate hanumane sarure. So, as he is not slain when the body is slain. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. That means the bodily changes does not affect the soul. Body may it may accept any kind of species, any kind of body amongst 84 lakhs of the species, but still the soul remains as it is, the eternal fragmental parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. So qualitatively, the small atomic fragmental part of the Supreme Spirit is one with the Supreme. Qualitatively, the Spirit soul has same quality or characteristics as the Supreme Lord. So qualitatively, the living entities, the Spirit soul, is one with the Spirit. He undergoes no changes like the body. Bodily changes cannot affect the nature or characteristics of the soul. Sometimes the soul is called the steady or kutistha. That is also one of the characteristics. Kutistha. Achalo vayam Puranu. In the upcoming verses, this will come. Krishna says achala. Achala means not moving, unmoving, or steady. And or the same thing we can say kutistha. Kutistha means it is steady, it remains as it is. That is the meaning. That means as the flow of time, with the flow of time, material things get changed. That means there is movement of material things, material body, material universes with the flow of time. But the spirit soul remains as it is, unmoving. Just like this building. The building is Kutist. So with the flow of air, with the flow of time, so from time to time, there may be wind, heavy rains, or sunshine. So many things will keep coming and going. But the building, or you can take example of a mountain, it remains as it is. It does not get changed. Similarly, the soul is unaffected by the flow of time. It remains as it is. That's why this is a very hope-giving quality or characteristics of the soul, that a person, a living entity, doesn't matter how much he becomes fallen into this material existence, but still there is not even a trace of change in its characteristics. Whatever changes are there, those changes are either on its gross body or in its subtle body, mind, intelligence, or gross body. Gross body changes and undergoes 84 lakhs species, and subtle body also changes. Different conditioning are there, but the soul remains as it is. It does not get suffered. So this is a very hope-giving characteristic that we can also attain to that topmost spiritual platform in which those who are self-realized, they remain there. And we can, all the symptoms which Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, especially Sit Pragya Saka Bhasa, this section, verse number 54 onwards to 72. So all those characteristics of symptoms we already have. This is not changing. But only externally, the spirit soul which is covered by a subtle body and gross body, those subtle body and gross body, they only keep changing. But as soon as one becomes realized, or one becomes free from this misconception that I am this body, then immediately he can regain to his original consciousness of Sthit Prajna, fixed up intelligence. So the body is subject to 6 kinds of transformations. It takes its birth from the womb of the mother's body, remains for some time, grows, produces some effects, gradually dwindles, and at last vanishes into oblivion. The soul, however, does not go through such changes. The soul is not born, but because it takes on a material body, the body takes its birth. The soul does not take birth there, and the soul does not die. Anything which has birth also has death. And because the soul has no birth, he therefore has no past, present, or future. He is eternal, ever existing, and remember, Nitya Shashvato Ayam Puranam. So Krishna is telling in this verse Nitya and as well as Shashvat. Apparently, it appears that these two things are one and the same. In third line, Krishna says, Ajo Nitya Shashvato Ayam Puranam. So soul is Nitya, means eternal, and Shashvata means ever existing or permanent. So what does this mean? So soul is eternal, but soul eternally exists in his eternal Sarupa, permanent form, as an individual being. So we are what we were, and we will be what we are and we were. That means the kind of this relationship which we have with the Supreme Lord, individual, unique relationship, that remains as it is, that is not affected. So constitutionally, the soul is also eternal, and the form which the soul has got, that is also Shashvata, eternal. The Nitya Shashvato. Shashvato means the soul soul exists. Soul is ever existing, and it's eternal. So this is what we can conclude with this. The individuality of the soul is also an eternal fact, because the Mayavadis, they do accept the eternity principle of the soul, but they do not accept the individuality principle of the soul. So just to convince, just to emphasis on this fact, Krishna is telling, Ajo Nitya Shashvat. Shashvat, in Shashvat form, Shashvat रूप में soul Nitya. That is the meaning. Shashvato Nitya. That means individuality of the spirit soul is also permanent, and this soul itself is also permanent. Both are correct. And premeable, it's oldest. The Supreme Lord is also premeable. So that is, there is no trace of history of his being. He is coming into being. That means, when did this soul became a being? There is no history for this. The same thing Srila Prabhupada is writing. That is, there is no trace in history of his coming into being. Coming into being means, when did the soul become an individual entity? There is no history for this. That means it is also an eternal fact. That's why ever existed. The soul is eternal, and its coming into being is also an eternal fact, ever existing. So under the impression of the body, we see the history of birth, etc. of the soul. The soul does not at any time become old as the body does. The so-called old man therefore feels himself to be in the same spirit as in his childhood or youth. The changes of the body do not affect the soul. The soul does not deteriorate like a tree, nor anything material. The soul has no byproduct either. The byproducts of the body, namely children, are also different individual souls. And owing to the body, they appear as children of a particular man. The body develops because of the soul's presence, but the soul has neither offshoots nor change. The soul cannot produce, and there is no change. Therefore, the soul is free from the 6 changes of the body. The body undergoes these 6 kinds of changes, but soul has no changes. Okay, so we'll stop here. Next, we'll continue this purport tomorrow's session. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Yes, if you have some question, you can ask. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, as you told, like in other classes, Satguna, Rajguna, and Tamaguna is there. So soul do affect by these guna also means
Soul
do
is
you
an.
have such qualities also?
That's what
Okay.
teaching of this verse. Nityo Shashvato Ayam Puranam and Kutistha. In the upcoming verse, Krishna will tell one more quality. Achalo Ayam Sanatana. Achalo. Achalo means the same thing. It is steady. It's unaffected by material changes. Okay.
People used to Hare
Yes,
Krishna Prabhu.
yes, yes.
Like people say this person is good, this person is bad. Such a kind of text when they give the
That is.
compliment or something. So soul do have such kind of things
No,
like this soul is good, this was a pure
no,
soul, this was
no, no. This is all because of ignorance. One thinks, "Ei mande, ei bhalo, ei sabokam." Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says very clearly. One who thinks this is good, this is bad. This is all illusion. There's no meaning to these things. Soul is neither good nor bad. Soul is transcendent beyond this conception of bad and good. So these bad and good conceptions are actually dualities created by mental misconceptions, false ego is misconceptions. When one thinks himself to be a product of this material world, then this misconception is generated. So this is called duality. And duality means it's actually an illusion, but it appears to be reality. That's why it is duality. It is illusion, but it appears to be reality. So it has got two features. That's why it is duality. Two. Hare Krishna.